Columbus Day, canceled. Dave Chappelle, canceled. John Gruden, canceled. And we're here to talk about it. I'm Nico Fideli.
And I'm Brittany Fideli.
And this is For the Republic.
The only thing we have to fear is fear itself.
Ask not what your country can do for you.
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
Welcome back to another episode of For the Republic. We're so glad you're here. Be sure to like this episode and share it with all your friends. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing and clicking the bell icon to be notified when a new episode premieres every Sunday night at 7 p.m. If you're listening to the audio version of this podcast, leave us a 5-star rating and let everybody know that you're enjoying the content. Well, cancel culture strikes again, and this time it takes away Columbus Day. That's right. All formerly known as Columbus Day is now the Indigenous Peoples Day.
Dun dun dun.
Dun dun dun.
Was that the appropriate reaction?
Yeah, dun, 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 like a horror movie. Yeah, it's October, so we can.
I thought you were doing Star Wars.
Oh.
I was like, what does Star Wars have to do with this?
No Star Wars.
That was a horror movie.
Yeah.
Disclaimer. Horror movie. Horror movie. America 2021 edition.
Yeah.
Good times.
Yeah. No need to go to see a horror movie this Halloween. Just live in America.
Yeah, that's
you're living
why,
the horror.
It's probably why attendance to theaters is down so much, because nobody needs to actually go watch a movie. You just have to watch the news, and it's crazy enough.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Good times.
Although, leave us in the comments if Halloween Kills is any good, because I'm actually curious about that. My brother got me curious about Halloween. Apparently it's like a sequel to the original Halloween movie.
I'm glad we're talking about a movie. I was a little concerned when you said, let me know about Halloween Kills. I'm a little interested. I was like, oh, okay, well, I guess we're going live.
No, not actual kills on Halloween. No, I'm not talking about that.
It was like a movie?
Yeah, it's a movie. It's like supposed to be the sequel to like the original Halloween movie.
Never saw it.
Yeah, I've never seen Halloween either, so. All right, anyways, about Indigenous Peoples Day. What's going on there?
How did we get so far off track there?
I don't know.
Yeah, so from Halloween to Indigenous Peoples Day. So yeah, Christopher Columbus was canceled.
Mm-hmm.
White House has an official proclamation on Indigenous
Yeah,
Peoples
the
Day.
whitehouse.gov doesn't even have anything about Christopher Columbus. Looking on the website right now, they had a proclamation on Indigenous Peoples Day posted October 8th.
Yep. So on Indigenous Peoples Day, our nation celebrates the invaluable contributions and resilience of Indigenous peoples, recognizes their inherent sovereignty, and commits to honoring the federal government's trust and treaty obligations to tribal nations. So yeah, Christopher Columbus gets canceled. Supposedly, according to Kamala Harris, we need to shed light on the explorers who ushered in a wave of devastation.
Yes, the wave
to
of
Indigenous
devastation.
peoples. Yeah, because that was definitely their intention when they were like exploring the continent.
Yeah.
Let's just usher in a wave of devastation. So I think her big beef was that the explorers they perpetrated violence, stealing land, and spreading disease. They perpetrated spreading disease. I think they knew back then how germs worked.
Yeah, and when Christopher Columbus set sail in 1492, or did he set sail or did he land? I think he set sail in 1492.
I can't remember how the song goes.
In 1492, he set the ocean blue or something like that. Yeah,
Christopher Columbus sailed the ocean blue.
Yeah, he set his sail in 1492, and he handpicked everybody that had every disease. So they just like you do have to go like get COVID tested.
Yeah,
they tested everybody for all the diseases before they got on there.
Wow.
So that they can spread it to the Native Americans.
The sarcasm is thick in here.
Yeah.
We're going to have to sharpen our knives to cut through it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so no, it's the irony of it, because like Kamala Harris acts like the explorers who were doing what everybody was doing in the 1400s, which was exploring new continents, taking over and claiming land for their home country, that they ushered in a wave of devastation to the indigenous peoples by bringing them diseases that they hadn't been exposed to.
I bet Kamala Harris thinks that that Christopher Columbus was racist because he called Native Americans Indians.
Well, here's the thing is that Kamala Harris is like going on about the diseases that they spread, but like they refuse to acknowledge that China is responsible for the coronavirus.
Oh, yeah.
Like here the entire world is dealing with a man-made lab created
Yeah.
virus that is devastating economies everywhere, and they refuse to blame China for it, or even try to hold China
I
accountable.
wonder if
in
she would
any means.
accuse China of perpetuating violence.
Well, it's just crazy because they want to hold Christopher Columbus accountable for things that happened like well over 500 years ago, but they don't want to hold people accountable for what's happening right now. It's just the irony of what's going on. It's like let's distract from the reality of our current events by going after Christopher Columbus. And that's something that's been going on for a few years. People have been like really after Christopher Columbus. And I think it's important to point out that Christopher Columbus did live in the 1400s. That's back in a time when everybody was exploring, everybody was claiming territory, everybody was doing this. This was not outside of the culture for that time.
But I feel like some people like imagine Christopher Columbus and his clan landing and then just coming out with like guns and axes and just starting slaughtering Native Americans, but that's not what happened. Like
No,
they didn't even know that they landed in the Caribbeans. They thought that they landed in India.
In the Caribbean, you mean in the Americas?
Well, wasn't it like South? Didn't they originally land in South America or Caribbean?
You probably should have looked this up.
I think they did. Where did?
This is awkward.
No, because I'm gonna be right. Columbus land.
Fact checks.
Christopher Columbus. San Salvador. Where's San Salvador?
No, they renamed it San Salvador.
So, I mean, like, they landed there thinking that they were in India. And so, I mean, and like, I feel like perpetuating, what is that word? Perpetuating, yeah. I feel like that I still said it wrong. I feel like that insinuates that you are there to cause violence, right? Like, you are spreading violence, where, like, the Native Americans were violent amongst themselves before they got there.
Yeah, like not to mention like the 84,000 people that the Mayans slaughtered when they dedicated their new temple or anything. You know? Not to talk about the fact that like Native tribes literally would eliminate other tribes in a heartbeat, you know, and take their women and children.
And I mean, I'm not here to like paint a pretty picture of Christopher Columbus, but I do look up to him as one of our founders, and like without him, the Americas wouldn't have been founded. So.
Right.
I mean, so I actually respect Christopher Columbus. I don't label him like some evil person because he actually traded. He's taught Native Americans how to trade. Like when the Pilgrims came, they taught Native Americans how to trade, and the Native Americans were not trading. Like, I mean, they were sacrificing each other. They were, you know, there was cannibalism. There was, you know, tribes that were being wiped out, and they would take women and children for their own, stuff like that. I mean,
so the Native Americans did on a small scale basically what everybody else in the world was doing on a larger scale. They would take over territories. They would eliminate the peoples around them. I mean, it was the culture of that time. And no more can you hold it against Native Americans today that their ancestors slaughtered each other's tribal people. Then you can hold it against Christopher Columbus and the European explorers for coming here and bringing diseases along that they didn't understand at the time. They didn't know how it worked.
This reminds me of a story that came out in the news a couple weeks ago. Some person posted on Twitter. I think it was somewhere like in the Midwest or something. But he comes from a bloodline of a tribe of Native Americans. And he said, you know, like this was my people's land back in, you know, the day, and I want to take it back or something like that. Whatever, I don't know what it was, but like come to find out, if you follow the lineage, like literally like a month before their tribe got it, they stole it from another tribe. So like, I mean, like that's kind of like what happened back then. So
it's true. I mean, it was what happened back then. You know, the native tribes warred against each other all the time. It was very typical. I mean, you know, that was the culture of their people, and that's not to say like, oh, there's anything sinister about it. It was the times. You know, so we can look at things today and we can say like, oh, maybe we're like living in like a more sophisticated or more peaceful time. You know, maybe that's the case. You know, we don't go and just divide and conquer other nations, you know, but there's a reason that there's a British Empire. Is because at one point in time, it was common to go and explore other lands, to purchase or to take it from the people who lived there, and to then rule over that land. So that was common thing. It was common culture back then. It was especially during that time, during the 1400s. That was a big thing. You know, I mean, it was the kings and queens were sending out explorers explorers to try to gather up as much land, to have as much territory, to have as big of a kingdom as possible.
Yeah.
And you can't hold them accountable for that time, because that was the culture then. How ridiculous would it be if we had to be held to the 1400s culture standard?
I think and I also think it's ridiculous that they're applying that to people then, where they're not even applying that same standard to people now. Like, I mean, there's no criticism. Our government doesn't criticize China for being tyrannical over Hong Kong, or literally Hong Kong was owned by Britain up until the late 20th century, and then it was given back, and with the stipulation that it was going to remain free. So I mean, like, this process just happened, and China has gone back on its word, saying that, oh yeah, we'll leave it, let them be, we'll let them govern themselves. Obviously, that's not the case anymore. And where's Kamala Harris, like, for that? Like, I mean,
right. Or like, where are they, against the Taliban for taking back over, Afghanistan, or, where are they in any of these situations? It's because.
But they're shocked that there's no women in their government. They're so shocked.
They're so shocked.
Yeah.
Super shocked. They're so surprised. No, it's just that's the typical thing with cancel culture, though, is it doesn't make a lot of sense for what it goes after. It just goes after whatever offending party there happens to be at the moment. So there's no real standard to it. It's not that they're holding everybody to the same standard and then they're going after anyone who doesn't fall up under that standard. It's just whoever happens to violate their feelings at the time. And so Christopher Columbus violates our feelings now, so we're going to cancel Christopher Columbus for discovering and being, basically taking part in one of the largest discoveries in all of history.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So, I mean, cancel culture is coming out strong in this news cycle, and I kind of want to make it this like a kind of cancel culture theme episode, because we have a couple stories that show like both sides of the spectrum, and we'll kind of talk about like our thoughts to wrap it up at the end. There's a call of action that we think that everybody should be taking right now to kind of fight back the tyranny and kind of make sure that our ideals and our principles remain, intact. So
I feel like it's ironic that all of this happened on the week of
of
Christopher Columbus Day.
Yeah. Christopher Columbus canceled and everything just spiraled. So the two stories that we want to talk about is John Gruden and Dave Chappelle. And we'll start with John Gruden. So John Gruden, the former coach of the Las Vegas Raiders, I almost said Oakland because, being an AFC West guy, they've always been Oakland to me. So the Las Vegas Raiders, he recently resigned because he used anti-gay, misogynistic language in his emails over a 7-year period. So these emails dated back all the way to 2011, actually. And the email that he said in 2011 was he was talking about I can't remember the guy's name, Demarius Smith. That's who it was. Demarius Smith, who was the NFL Players Association executive director, and John Gruden has been known, those people close to him and those people around him have worked with him. He's known to say that people have rubber lips, meaning that they're not telling the truth. So, I mean, in this email, he apparently said that Demarius Smith has lips the size of Michelin tires, and like that was taken as a racial slur, which I mean it's not something you should say about somebody, but these emails, keep in mind, were private emails. These were outside of work.
I wonder what he has to say about Kylie Jenner's lips.
Yeah, because those things are huge, man. But yeah, so these emails that he corresponded were to Bruce Allen, and this is courteous of ESPN. He sent these emails to Bruce Allen, then the president of the Washington football team, because no longer the Redskins. Can't say the Redskins anymore. That's racist.
Oh, that got canceled too.
Yeah, that got canceled too.
I forgot about that.
Yeah. So
Redskins canceled.
And these emails, I mean, these were not formal emails. These didn't have his signature on them or anything like that.
They were personal emails from a personal account, correct?
Personal emails from a personal account. He just happened to send them to his buddy Bruce Allen, who was corresponding with his Washington football, or his then Redskins email. So, I mean, he said numerous things about Roger Goodell, the NFL commissioner, and if you say anything bad about Roger Goodell, he's gonna go after you. So,
I think it's funny because he said he was clueless and anti-football, and that's one of the best descriptions of Roger Goodell I've ever heard. I don't know why the guy didn't get a promotion for saying that.
Yeah, so apparently
Maybe he should have been promoted to the head of the football league
Yeah.
for saying that.
So I guess in those emails he used the anti-gay slur, the F word, to describe Roger Goodell. He also said that Goodell shouldn't have pressured the Rams to draft queers, a reference to Michael Sam, who was the first openly gay player drafted by the NFL in
Honestly,
2014.
and who cares? Like,
Yeah, I know.
I don't understand why anybody cares. Like, nobody cares about the sexuality of any of the football players. I
Yeah.
literally don't think anybody cares, and that's the point. It was like, why are you pressuring people to draft someone based on their sexuality?
Yeah.
Because who cares about their sexuality?
Yeah, and
Like,
I mean,
the only thing you should care about is how well they do what they are supposed to do.
Yeah, I mean, to me, like, honestly, like, if I was to, like, kind of, not rate, but, like, if I was to say, like, what is deemed, like, appropriate, like, this is not inappropriate to me. Like, I mean, saying that, Goodell shouldn't have pressured the Rams to draft queers, I mean, they use the term queer. So, I mean, like, it's hard. The line is so blurred on what is derogatory when using the word queer.
Right,
Like,
right.
to me, like, this doesn't make any sense that you would put blame, you would browbeat somebody for saying the word queer when somebody would describe themselves as queer or something like that. Like, I honestly just, when I'm in public, I don't say the word queer at all because I don't really know, like, what it means, to be honest.
What the
Like,
culture says
what
anymore.
the culture deems it appropriate and what it deems not to.
Right.
So I mean,
I think
but
that's what happens though when you have a culture of like, you have like black rappers who frequently say the N-word, but white people who say the N-word are like canceled.
Yeah.
And then you have black people who say the word crackers, but that's supposed to be like the equivalent of the N-word or supposedly supposed to be as insulting as the N-word coming from a black person. But that's okay because it's something that's really interesting because John Gruden got canceled for talking about Roger Goodell, but was it not Antonio Brown who called Roger Goodell a cracker a couple of years ago?
Yeah.
And here he's playing for Tampa Bay, last year's Super Bowl winners.
Yeah.
So it's really there's a line that is drawn and it's different according to who is actually saying something.
Mm-hmm.
You have Deshaun Watson, I believe, who plays does he still play for the Texans?
No, he doesn't play right now.
Oh, he doesn't play right now.
But he's not like
He's not banned though.
he's not banned from playing the
right,
NFL.
so he's not banned right now. Similar to Antonio Brown, he just hasn't been picked up. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Antonio Brown since has been picked up, but Deshaun Watson has the ability to play in the NFL, and he has like 21 allegations against him of sexual assault. You have stadiums that literally have like O.J. Simpson's name plastered like in giant letters over their box seats. Like it's just there's a line that it is all just crooked and muffled because nobody knows what it actually is. It depends on who you are, whether you can cross that line or not. And so I think that I think it's unfortunate to me that John Gruden actually resigned. Like, I think he should have just gone full ham and said, listen, like, I made these statements, and if you find them offensive, then I'm sorry that you find them offensive, but I meant nothing by them. And, like, players, other people that have worked with him have since come out and said that they know him and that he's not in any way racist.
Right.
So, and I think that... I don't really think you can. I mean, I don't really know that you can be a successful coach in the NFL and be racist because there's a lot of different cultures represented in the NFL, and I don't see how you could be a good coach.
And like the reactions from like the people at ESPN and stuff like that, they're just over centralizing it. Like they're just making it like this whole big thing, and that's because John Gruden resigned. So that gives them the ammunition,
right?
That gives them the ammunition. Oh, he's basically admitting that what he said is wrong, and then they just over the top. Like, I mean, there's people crying on panels, like saying like there was Randy Moss was one of them, like saying like, I love the game of football so much, and like I was picked on as a kid and stuff like that. And
I
like
have no idea who you're talking about.
You don't know who Randy Moss is?
No.
Oh wow. So like,
is that embarrassing?
but Randy Moss was considered one of those players, like an Antonio Brown, like a Terrell Owens, who was very hard to work with.
Yeah.
He was very hard to deal with. He had legal issues of his own. And he's on here as a ESPN panelist. I'm not saying he shouldn't be there. I mean, he's if you watch him now, like it seems like he's a totally different kind of guy. But him being over dramatic about this is just kind of
ironic.
Ironic, yeah. It's just ironic because there's players right now who have, like you said, who have outstanding, either whether it's warrants, whether it's, court dates, whether it's DUIs, whether it's domestic disputes. Like, I mean,
a lot of domestic disputes. That's like a pretty big thing in the NFL. And that's something that I think is crazy to me, that they're going after. And I'm not one to advocate for canceling anyone. I think that teams have the right to pick up and dismiss players, according to their performance, according to how they represent the team. If you don't want someone on your team who represents you badly because they're at home beating their girlfriends, then don't have them on your team.
Yeah.
But I also am like very wary of any kind of like cancel culture. Oh, they should never play football again, or this person should never coach again, or this should, because like, who's to say that there's no ability for redemption. There's always an ability for redemption. And so you just see this a lot, this cancel culture that goes after specific people for doing specific things. It's not a one for everyone. It's a if you are this person, then you get canceled, but if you're this person, you do not.
Yeah. And I think this is the problem of what, you're seeing the NFL fall in the same trap that I think our current administration falls into, where they try to control from the top down. And you can't have an even playing field or a fairness when you try to control from the top down like that. So like, I feel like it should be up to the team. Like basically how, some things that we're dealing with socially and like, COVID, things like that, they should be up to the states.
Right.
So, I mean, like every team is different. Every culture is different in the locker room and stuff. So I feel like when Roger Goodell tries to do this top-down control, then it's picking and choosing, because you don't understand every individual situation, what things are going on. So my rule of thumb has always been that when a team has a problem with a player, then that team should deal with it. It should never be a whole NFL issue unless, something bigger happens, which I don't even know what that would be. I mean, literally the law kind of takes care of itself, right? I mean, like if you're not on probation, if you're not, in jail, obviously, then, I mean, like it's up to the team whether or not, you want to hire them.
And you see that active in the NFL, because you saw that really out of Antonio Brown. Antonio Brown was removed from the Steelers team, and then he went to the Raiders, where he apparently couldn't get along with anybody there, and then he went to the Patriots, and that's when some assault allegations came out against him, and he was dismissed from the Patriots, and now he's with Tampa Bay. He just hit fastest to 900 catches, I believe, was the record that he just hit. So fastest to 900 catches, and that was in like 145 games. And I'm just thinking to myself, had he not been so disruptive, he would have hit that a couple of years ago, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no doubt to me that he probably would have hit that a couple of years ago had he not been so disruptive. He would have
had much more success, with the chemistry that he already had with Ben Roethlisberger. So
you saw that with Le'Veon Bell. I mean, Le'Veon Bell now plays as a backup for the Ravens?
The Ravens,
right?
Yep.
I mean, he plays like backup for them. He was arguably 3 years ago the best running back in the NFL. Antonio Brown 3 years ago, arguably one of the best, if not the best, wide receiver in the NFL. And these people, because of their behaviors on their said teams, they were removed, and they were justifiably taken out of the position that they were in. And because of that, you see less success in their career stats. And so I think that that's a natural process happening. That's a natural thing happening, where teams are able to take care of disciplinary actions on their own. They're able to remove and bring in players as they desire. And that's a natural process. And that's the way it should be.
Yeah. So like kind of to put a button on this, I think that, if the Raiders, like if this came out and the Raiders were like, hey, look, we don't want anything to do with this. This is too much. That's fine. Like you don't have him resign. Like this whole thing with the cancel culture, like, oh, it's all optics, look best if you resigned. This whole thing is stupid. Like, if I was in this position, you have to fire me.
Well,
like,
and the thing is, like, was there not something, I mean, is what he said so inflammatory that he could not have been disciplined in a way other
Yeah.
than being removed from the team.
Right, yeah.
So you're telling me that, like, after years of doing arguably a good job, after years of success, after years of doing, what he's supposed to be doing, he's going to be removed from his position because of a couple of emails that came out that he wrote years ago. When the culture, and I'm not,
Which he wasn't even with the Raiders at the time. He was working for ESPN.
right,
so.
working for ESPN at the time, and once again, the culture was different. It's only been over the last few years that some of these things have been even considered a major insult or a no word or something that you're not supposed to say. It was common. I mean, it was very common growing up. I don't know anybody who didn't use the F word regularly. I don't know anybody, and I did grow up in a more rural area, so of course we didn't have like the same kind of
No, I mean, even
culture as
growing
the
up
city,
in the city, like it was the same way. Like everybody used that word, and it was funny. I was with my brother a couple days ago, and we were just like reminiscing like old music, and we listened to the American Idiot album from Green Day. And they say that word like repeatedly in that album, but Green Day's not canceled.
Right.
Like you can still buy that album on Amazon.
Right. And that's the point, that you once again are holding someone accountable for the culture of today.
Yeah.
You're holding them accountable for what they did years ago. And that's not the culture that was happening years ago. And so there are certain things that are always unacceptable. There are certain things that are just never going to be okay. But the language that we use is one of those things that's constantly changing. The language that people use is constantly developing. There's constantly things that go from inappropriate. The actual F word, for instance, was something that was commonly used, hundreds of years ago because it stood for something else. So it was a commonly used word. Now it's considered an inappropriate word. It's considered a swear word or an inappropriate term. So your language changes according to the culture that you're in, and it's unfair to hold someone accountable for the language that they use that was acceptable at the time that is not acceptable now. So that's something that I've had a problem with for a long time. And unfortunately, John Gruden kind of caved to that, but we've seen other people like Terry Crews and now even Dave Chappelle who have kind of stood their ground.
Yeah. So Dave Chappelle is also got under fire for his newest episode of his Netflix show, The Closer. So I guess...
Is it The Closer or The Closer?
The Closer? No, it's The Closer. Like kind of like the closing pitcher.
Oh.
Yeah, The Closer.
I totally thought it was The Closer, and I was like, I wonder what the theme of The Closer.
No, it's The Closer. And like if you watch the trailer, I love the trailer for The Closer. I haven't actually watched any of his specials, but the trailer talks about, the reason why I say the things I say is not to hurt people. It's not to be mean. It's sometimes the meanest thing to say is the funniest. And that's why I say it. It's because it's funny.
Right.
And that's exactly right. Like I was thinking to myself, like there's very few comedic elements that doesn't put down somebody or doesn't put down a group of people or doesn't poke fun at something else. Like, I mean, that's like kind of like the root of all comedy, basically. So like, I mean, the taking what he's saying seriously enough where people are coming out in the trans community that are saying, oh, this emotionally scarred me, this emotionally hurt me.
Well, actually, I mean, let's talk about what he said.
Yeah, let's actually talk about what he said. So
who is this? ESPN said that it was dangerously transphobic?
No, this is
TV Line.
TV Line.
So
yeah,
TV. Oh yeah, I'm looking at the other article, ESPN. So TV Line said that his comments were they were deemed dangerously transphobic.
Yeah.
So what did he actually say here?
He said that gender is a fact.
Gender is a fact. Gender is
dun.
Gender is a fact. And then likened.
This is our Halloween special.
He did liken trans women's genitalia to plant-based meat substitutes, basically saying that they're not real.
Yeah, like
because gender is fact.
Yeah, if you were once a man, now you have a woman's part that was surgically like kind of like altered.
Right.
Yeah.
Then you do not have real female genitalia. So I mean, it's like. What is it now? You get all this COVID stuff.
I just realized how like gruesome that is. Like I was doing that.
It was a very like sushi chef movement there, which
maybe that's
can be
how
comparable.
They do it. Yeah.
So it's crazy to me that you have all of this COVID stuff going on, and you have the government saying follow the science, follow the science, which you can't do because they take down any science that disagrees with their science. So, but follow the science, follow their science, and then you have people who are born one gender. You are born either a male or a female. You're not born Demi Lovato, who's them, they, them, their plus, or whatever she's called now.
She's non-binary, right?
Non-binary, or whatever.
Yeah. Because
Whatever
apparently
that means.
humans are 0 and 1s now.
You can be anything you want to be, an XYZ and whatever letter or pronoun. They even make pronouns up. I heard the other day you should use they, them, Zer. They, them, zer. That's what you should use, because it's more inclusive than they, their, them, or what. I don't know. It's just so much craziness that's going on. But follow the science, unless we're talking about gender. Because even though science says that there are so many differences between males and females, there are so many differences between a man and a woman, between their makeup, between their DNA, between how they function, between all of this stuff. There's so many differences between them. But if you don't want to be a man and you want to be a female, then you have the right to be a female, and you should be called a female, because you are now, that's what you identify as. It doesn't matter what the science says. It doesn't matter what your makeup says. It doesn't matter how God designed you. None of that matters. You can be what you want to be. So we don't follow the science when it's convenient, when it meets the cultural norm of the day, when it meets the extreme, when it meets whatever you're wanting to push, the agenda that's being pushed. We don't follow the science.
Yeah.
But we follow the science in other places, so it's just crazy to me. Like, if you say gender is fact, then you are dangerously transphobic for saying gender is fact, even though that is scientifically proven. It's scientifically proven that gender is fact. Yeah. That genders are different. Male and females are different.
There's no middle ground for this, and that we'll kind of get to that at the end of what our reaction should be, and like things like that. But Chappelle also declared that he supported the Harry Potter author J.K. Rowling, because she's come under fire. She's a well-known feminist and left-leaning. She's
very big in supporting gay rights.
Yeah, so I mean, this is somebody who's part of the intersectional community, if you will, and even her, she's. She came out and said that, gender is gender. And that's kind of like what the bottom line is that people have purposely, I feel like it's done on purpose, confused us on this side of the aisle that, you can decide however you want to live, but don't tell me what I have to call you. Don't tell me, who you think you are. I mean, if that's what you believe, that's fine, whatever. But don't say that, my 12-year-old daughter, when she is like into, monster truck cars, I have to start putting her on some sort of testosterone hormones because she likes monster trucks or something like that. Something stupid like that. And that's kind of like what our culture is kind of coming to, where it's like, oh, if your daughter likes to play sports, or if your son is into ballet, then, maybe you should really consider hormone therapy, because maybe he's inside dealing with something.
Right. Right. It's the craziness of the culture. And even like, now they're wanting to transition kids that are young. I mean, like, you have 7, 8, 9-year-olds that they're saying they are non-binary, or they are actually a male instead of a female, or so on and so forth. I mean, these kids haven't even hit puberty yet. How the heck do they know what they are? Like, they don't even have hair growing in all their body parts. Like, they're children. They're children when I was a kid, I can think of all of the crazy things that I wanted to be when I was older. One of them was rich, and clearly I didn't know what I was doing because I was a kid. So there's so many things that as a kid you don't even change your underwear every day when you're 8 years old.
You don't let your 5-6-year-old or whatever pick what he wants for dinner, because he's going to choose gummy bears and cheese. Chicken nuggets. No.
Every kid wants chicken nuggets and French fries for dinner. You let the kid choose what they want to eat every day. It's going to be some sort of junk food. No, you teach them to eat broccoli. You teach them to eat lettuce. You teach them to eat fruits and vegetables and healthy things. You teach them that they've got to be active. You teach them to do these things that are really healthy for them, but then at the same time encourage them. Well, if you feel like a boy, though, you can be a boy. Or if you feel like a girl, you can be a girl.
And these people, these scientists and these specialists, I mean, they know what they're doing at the end of the day. They know that they're not following the actual human behavior correctly. They know like when I was a kid, And, you know, I remember specifically this one moment where, you know, my mom.
All I can think of is that, like, is it State Farm commercial? Or is like you turning into your parents? Because I just had a flashback of my parents saying when I was a kid.
Yeah, is that State Farm?
Is it State Farm?
Yeah.
They say, like, we can help you. We
Some
can't
insurance,
help you.
yeah, but yeah.
Yeah, we can't help you turn.
Or, I think it's Geico.
No, is it Geico?
Yeah, we can't help you turning into your parents.
We can't help you from stop you from turning into your parents or whatever it is. And they have like all of these like things where, you know, they're doing like their weird parent things. So you just said when I was a kid, it reminded me of those commercials.
Yeah.
You can't stop me from turning into my parents.
Yeah, I remember specifically this one memory. I don't know, my mom was, you know, getting ready for something. She was like putting on some makeup or whatever, and then I saw her purse like hanging on the mirror. And like I took it and like I put it over my shoulder and I was like, all right, I'm going to work. And then she's like, okay. And like, you know, like I was pretending carrying around a purse and coming back. And then like I'm back from work. And then I hang like the purse back on the mirror. Like, I mean, that's like a feminine thing to do. But, you know, I was like equating that in my mind that like, you know, I want to be a provider someday.
Make you feel like a girl.
Yes, I felt inside that maybe I was in the wrong body. I was born in the wrong body. You ever see that TikTok where he's like, I identify as rich. And like his dad's like, dude, you're poor. You have no job. You gotta go get to this. I identify as rich, and people are putting me down. Like they swipe his credit card and like it declined, but I'm rich. Swipe it again. It's hilarious.
No, I haven't seen it.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, though, it's kind of funny that you can identify as a male or female, and that's acceptable. But if you try to identify as anything else, you're considered like really weird.
Yeah.
Like I've seen so many people have come out like they identify as like a different race.
Yeah.
Which is considered racist.
Racist.
It's not sexist to identify as a different gender, but it is racist if you identify as a different ethnicity.
Yeah.
And then now there's like people coming out saying they identify as like animals, like people who like and people identifying as different age groups.
Oh yeah.
Have you seen that? Like people identify as babies and they wear like diapers and carry around bottles and stuff, and they say like they actually say like they identify as babies. They pay people to take care of them like as a baby. I mean, it's like crazy to me. And it's like and like the trans community is like all mad, like, oh, they can't identify as something other than what they are. Like, bro, what are you doing? You wrote the book.
And our institutions aren't doing anything to help it. Like they recently changed gender identity disorder to gender dysphoria. So like they don't want to label it as a disorder. This is their feelings. We gotta, you know, respect their feelings and stuff like that. So like we're not doing anything to help ourselves here. But like the point of me bringing up that story was basically like, now in today's culture, like a specialist would say, oh, maybe like there's something internally going on, maybe suggest hormone therapy, where in reality, you know, I didn't know what the roles are of the woman or the man, but I wanted to be a provider. And I knew that when my mom took her purse, she went to work. And, you know, like that was going on in my mind. Okay, like I want to be a provider. I'm not saying, oh, I'm going to be a woman. I was not thinking to myself, oh, I want to be a girl. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and this is the way that the mind works as a child. Like they look up to their parents and they look up to, you know, whoever it is at the time, you know, whether it's their mom and their dad, and be like, oh, I want to be like that. And they don't say like, oh, I want to be a girl or I want to be a boy. That they don't. Even if they do say that, they don't know what they're actually saying. So
you can get a purse though as a man.
Yeah,
they're called merces.
Yeah, the merces, man purses.
They're man purses.
Yeah, you're gay if you have one of those.
Oh boy.
Oh boy.
Canceled. Nico Fideli canceled.
But anyway,
so the to bring this back full circle, Dave Chappelle actually has done the opposite of John Gruden, and he stood his ground. Yeah. He's like, this is true. It's fact, and I'm not backing down from that. Netflix actually, surprisingly, the CEO of Netflix has actually stood behind him.
Yeah.
And so they had a trans walkout at Netflix where the trans people of Netflix tried to claim that he had caused them harm by what he said when he said that gender is fact. He tried to cause them harm. And Netflix basically said, this is not a real thing.
Yeah.
He didn't cause you any harm. That's not a real thing. And the leader of that walkout was actually dismissed from Netflix because they have been releasing internal data to the press to try to generate an even greater upset over
so
this.
That person was
They actually have been terminated because they were releasing data to the press. So it's really interesting to see Netflix stand behind Dave Chappelle. I'm very pleased with that. I find it interesting. I would have been really disappointed because they've stood behind some other stuff that I thought were really sketchy. But it looks like they're standing behind their work regardless, and they're not gonna cave to the silliness of their employees.
Yeah, and also like this walkout kind of backfired because I just remembered this. This is the Hollywood Reporter that Jacqueline Moore, who was is a trans person, is actually a white. Who is it? If you're transferring from a male to a female, are you trans?
If you're transferring from a man to a female, I believe you're trans female.
Trans female. Okay, so and she.
We're gonna get fact checked on that.
Oh man, it's so confusing. They left their show, which was Dear White People, and she's a white person. So like, I mean, like, and like the Twitter is like blowing up over this. Like, oh, you're trying to educate white people by this show that says Dear White People, and you're actually white. People didn't even realize that she was the leader of that. So I thought that was kind of funny that this kind of like backfired on that whole community. Yeah. And you know, the reason why we bring up John Gruden and Dave Chappelle, it's very convenient for this podcast that those came out at the same time, because it shows what happens when you cave to the cancel culture, and it shows what happens when you don't cave to the cancel culture.
Right, and you saw that too earlier in the year with Terry Crews. Well, actually, it kind of started last year. Terry Crews was in basically under fire from cancel culture because he said that white and black people needed to get along and to communicate with each other. And he said that if Black Lives Matter
continues to go the way they go, then they'll be like the anti-white,
right?
Group.
Right. That they would. I believe he equivalated them to like a KKK type thing. Yeah. He's saying like you will go so far that you will be literally the KKK against white people.
Yeah.
So he was very vocal about that, and they like tried to shut him down, and he was like, I'm not backing down, and he has not. Terry Crews has not backed down. In fact, he's come out since then and said even more. And now you're starting to see like more people come out against cancel culture because of what it's ruining. And recently, who's the short guy? David Spade. I was thinking the short guy from all the Adam Sandler movies. David Spade, who I've loved for years. I thought he was pretty funny in pretty much everything he's been in. He can be a little over the top, but he's a pretty funny guy. He actually came out and said that cancel culture is ruining comedy because pretty soon you won't be able to joke about anything because it's literally taking.
It's funny you mentioned David Spade. Joke. I can't remember what movie he was when he switched his bodies with somebody and like a female is in his body.
No, that's not.
It's not David Spade. That's what's his name? Rob Schneider. Yeah,
Rob Schneider, who coincidentally is from our area and often comes home to visit his parents. Yeah. I'm always hoping one day that I'll be able to run into him and get like one of those pictures.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe someday.
Yeah, one of those celebrity pictures. I always wanted that with Viggo Mortensen too, but he doesn't.
I was gonna say I know you were gonna bring him up, but anyways, continue what you're saying about David Spade.
Yeah, so just that he said that that comedy was going to be ruined by cancel culture because pretty soon you won't have anything left to joke about, and you're starting to see a lot more people come out against cancel culture. Like eventually, like nothing's going to be left. It's just going to be like this vanilla flavored culture where like no one is different. Nothing is unless you're like not real different, unless you're a fake different, unless you're trans. You can't be different. You know what I mean? Like it has to be some sort of manufactured difference. You can't just be different because
it's like that Fairly Odd Parents episode where everybody was black and white. Have you ever seen that one?
Yeah. I think I've seen like most of the older Fairly Odd Parents.
And then he puts on his pink hat or whatever. Everybody's like, oh, crazy. You're different.
But like everybody is literally the same, and it's unfortunately that's what cancel culture is going to do to a bunch of different people. There's no longer going to be like a variety in our culture. You're not going to be able to joke about things and do these things because cancel culture is like, hey, we're offended, our feelings are hurt, and they have to go to their padded soft rooms and cry about it. And it's just like it's ruining the things that make us unique. It's ruining the things that make us different from one another and make us interesting and funny and bring those things to light, I think.
Yeah. And so that brings up the question, what do we do about it?
What do we do about it?
And I think one of the things that we need to start doing is non-compliance.
Right.
I think that it comes a time where our government has gone too far. Our institutions have gone too far. They're being taken over by these left ideals, and by left it means that everything is anti everything. So you're anti-family, you're anti-liberty, you're anti-religion, you're anti-God. And all of this anti-culture has taken over our institutions, has taken over our Hollywood, has taken over our entertainment. And it's being pressured on us that we have to act a certain way, that we have to say certain things, that our freedoms are coming under attack, and it's time for a non-compliance. And of course,
stop walking on eggshells.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be not calling for a call of violence. Like there's no reason for violent retaliation right now. I mean, like what we need to do is just live the lives that we have been given and our God-given rights, where we can say things privately to each other that is never meant to be out in public. And if something that you say privately to somebody is in public, you have the right to tell them,
stand your ground.
Stand your ground. You have the right to tell them, hey, mind your own business. That's
when Alexa one day releases all the things that I've said.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
Stand my ground.
Stand your ground. Yeah.
It's going to be a wild ride.
That's the thing, though, is that, John Gruden, I still have respect for the man, but he should not have resigned. He should have stood his ground and said, you know what, mind your business. And then that would have made the Raiders look bad when they fired him. That would have made the NFL look bad. But instead, he resigned and left the door open for them, to cast blame, to criticize him. And you saw it exactly with Dave Chappelle. Dave Chappelle said, if this is what cancel culture is, then I'm loving it, because his show is blown up.
Yeah.
And it's not because that people don't
ratings are up, baby.
Ratings are up, baby. And it's not that people don't like trans people and that's why they're watching it. No, they want to support comedy. They want to support free speech. They want to support free content.
People are so tired of being limited in what they can say and what they can do and what's acceptable. Everybody feels like you literally have to watch every little thing that you said, because you might offend someone. When did that start being the thing? Like, you have everything that you have to say, you have to consider that you might offend someone when you're saying it. That's their problem. Like, in most cases, as long as you are being a decent human being, if you offend someone with what you do, that's their problem, because people can get offended about literally everything.
This culture shift.
You're not being, just hateful and mean and derogatory and just a terrible person. But if you're being a good person and you make a joke about someone and they get offended about it, well, tough toenails.
Yeah, tough toenails.
Yeah.
Nice.
Tough toenails. Put that in your... I know I shouldn't mix up my sayings, because it's probably going to end up being like some weird thing.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know when this culture shift happened where, somebody said something and, they got offended by it, but it wasn't, directed at them specifically, that now the person that said it has to apologize.
Yeah. We're offended for you.
Yeah, we're offended for... We're offended for you. Yeah, I know. Like honestly, Dave Chappelle shouldn't be apologizing. None of this. And you stand your ground. Stand your ground. And
stand your ground law.
That goes for things like the COVID vaccine as well. I mean, if you are under pressure to get a vaccine that you don't want to get, that it's your personal decision, stand your ground. Non-compliance, and you have to be willing to stick with the consequences. The consequence for me standing my ground, I did lose my job, but you know what? I feel like I made the right decision still to this day. And I think that's what we're seeing across America, and that's the only way that we're going to keep this thing intact.
Yeah, I'm so tired of hearing people say, I had to get it, but you should fight. You should fight. Like, no, you don't. Like, you don't have to give in. You don't have to give in, because you know what? A job is a job. You can make money pretty much anywhere. I literally see an article on the internet every day. 7 side jobs that make you more money than working full time. 8 side jobs that you can do while working full. There's literally so many things and so many opportunities in this country, and literally, like, what do we have, like 10 million jobs that are not even filled right now? There's so many things that you can do. Don't give in to this culture that is trying to force you to be someone other than what you are, or to make health decisions other than what you think is healthy for you. We need to stop losing our individuality and becoming just this one gelled together thing.
Yeah.
That somebody else decides who we are,
Yep. And we're going to go through a time period where we're going to have to work harder than we used to. Yeah. I know I'm of the person that always reminisces, of the Trump era, where you could get something off Amazon for 99 cents or whatever. You can get whatever you want. Days. Those are the days, man. And
could go to the store and actually find the
everything was in stock. I could buy new equipment for my instruments. I could buy.
You were able to build a computer.
Yeah.
Back then.
Yes. Now let me tell you, kids. Back in 2018, you were able to build a computer.
Like, no, they had graphics cards.
Yeah, things, Newegg was stocked, everything was stocked, and, you could enjoy the luxuries and prices were down. But unfortunately, we're not living in that time right now at this moment. But that doesn't mean we can't get there. But
doesn't mean we can't rise to the occasion.
Yeah, the pendulum is going to swing, and we have to be the ones that swing it. And unfortunately, we're at a time period where we're going to have to put in more work than people before us. But it makes it an easier life for people that come after us. Us putting in the work, ensuring that we have our freedoms, ensuring that the free market thrives, making sacrifices, dealing with the consequences of doing what is right.
Being an individual.
We can't slack anymore. Otherwise, we're going to lose our nation.